morning YouTube, so it looks like I need to stop by and get fuel. So we're starting a little bit later today. It's 8:31 right now, 73 degrees. Beautiful weather. I texted Jacob this morning that we'll be meeting up at 9, I believe. I told him I gotta swap out the blades. And pretty much yesterday when I was weed eating, because it was kind of like today, it's been overcast the past couple days because of all this rain. But because it was overcast, I wasn't wearing my glasses, and I ended up weed whacking something to it. It was like a piece of a branch or a rock, I don't know, but my eye's been a little bit red. It's been irritating. So luckily we don't have that many left. I was gonna try and push us to finish today, but I think I'm gonna actually just try to take it easy today and then be working tomorrow. But even though we got rained out on Monday, we'll still be finishing up before Friday, so that's great. We didn't have that many this week. Well, I mean, to me it is, but probably to y'all not. But we had like anywhere from like 36 to 40 clients this week. So pretty much Monday we got rained out. Tuesday we got we did one, which was the Outback, and then we got rained out for a couple hours. We came back home, and then we went back out like around 11:30 or noon. And then we kept going till 7. And then that day 6:30 is where we kept going up till. But we ended up doing 9. And then yesterday we worked from 7:30 to 6, and we did 13. Today I will probably do 7 or 8, and then that will leave us with about like 7 more for tomorrow. So let's swap out the blades and then we'll keep going. I will say this has happened before. This has happened to me before, so I think it's very important if you do tend to like grow your business, or I'm sure a lot of people that have bigger lawn care businesses, it's a mandatory or they make it a mandatory to keep the guard on. This could have been prevented if I would have kept my guard on, but as you guys can see, I take them off. But as you know, if you do tend to have multiple crews, then having a guard on it should be mandatory, because it just saves you from this happening, or from one of your employees getting hit with something with their eyes, and then worst case scenario, I was like, you don't want them to lose their sight, or for them to kind of sue you and whatnot. So I think it just adds that it takes you out of that liability and whatnot. For me, it's happened I think like 2 times, and pretty much after a few days, normally it's like 5-6 days, it heals on its own. I mean, I can see out of it, it's just very red and irritated. So for this, I'm going to keep an eye on it. But if it doesn't feel any better, if it gets worse within the next couple of days, then I'll be going to the optometrist. I don't think it's nothing crazy, because it's happened to me before, and it normally heals again, or it heals on its own. But yeah. So I'm all done swapping them out. It normally takes me like 6-7 minutes, if that. And normally I'll have a couple blades sharpened, because that way I'm not having to like take these off and then sharpen them and then put them back. Normally on Sundays, I'll sharpen all of them. So on Monday, when we got rained out, we actually started clearing out, or not clearing out, but organizing my garage. And then these are all the blades down here. So right now I just have 4 sets. of the regular blades, and I think 3 sets of the mulching blades. And then throughout the day or throughout the week, I'll swap them out. Then I got all the trash we got. But yeah, I mean, if you hurt your eye, definitely go to the optometrist. For me, you know, if it was turning green or if my vision was blurry, I would have definitely gone. But you know, it's just a little irritated from whatever I threw towards my eye. Probably scratched it a little bit. So you know, I'm just applying eye drops and trying to keep them moist throughout the day. And as long as, you know, if it gets worse, I'm gonna go. But you know, use your best judgment. You don't want to lose your eyesight or just because you don't want to go to the doctor and whatnot. But anyways, today I guess we should talk about what happens when you get injured, especially if you're a solo lawn care provider. It's going to happen. You know, you're going to get injured. For me, you know, my eyes, it's red. I'll post a picture, but I don't know if you guys, it's just like super red. So you guys can skip it if you guys don't want to see a red eye, but it does look a little bad. But last year, I pretty much, what was it? Last year, I pulled my back because I have a really pretty bad back when I'm lifting things. I think I just never really learned how to lift with my legs, and I normally will lift with my back, and I end up pulling it. So that would happen. That has happened a couple times. Even this year, I think it's happened once. Last year, it happened like 2 or 3 times. And normally when that happens, I have to wear my back brace. Luckily, I do feel right now, I don't know if you guys can hear it, I'm feeling a little sick. I like a little, you know, I have a little runny nose. I'm a little lightheaded right now. So I think I am catching something right now. But, you know, it's nothing too crazy where I'm not going to stay home for this. But sooner or later, you're going to get injured. Your body's going to start giving out. And again, that's why I think this isn't sustainable as you get older. Because I say, you know, as you get older, your body's going to start giving out. And it's just part of life. You know, we grow older, we get weaker. And then eventually we just die. Then that's just how it is and whatnot. So you kind of have to start planning something else, like, oh, what can I do when I start getting older? Or again, there are those exceptions that people are 60, 70, 80 that are still doing this, but they probably cut back a lot on the yards that they used to do, and whatnot. And what I think this year, Jacob ended up spraining his ankle, and I was solo for a week and a half during like the hottest day of the month. And you know, it's different when it's employee. Of course, if I'm Jacob, I would kind of sorry, I'm trying to flash this. You know, if I were Jacob, I would also be calling out, like, I'm not going to make it worse. But it's a little different when you're a small lawn care provider and, you know, and you're the business owner. You're like, oh, I have to go out and get these yards done because, you know, my clients are waiting on us and whatnot. So it's kind of, you know, it is hard when if you don't have a great immune system, you know, if you're constantly getting sick, you're going to find yourself being in tough situations. If you're planning to do this, ultimately you do have to take care of your body, of your tempo, eating healthy. You know, you got to try to stay away from energy drinks. Last year I was pretty bad. I would say I was probably drinking one every week at least. I would drink a Monster. This year I think I've only had one. I'm really trying to cut back. And it's only when I really need that extra adrenaline or the extra power boost and whatnot. You know, and I think I'm sure there's people out there that, you know, have had like severe injuries where they're probably out for the season, or, you know, if they kind of like set themselves up for success, if they have a couple workers, then, you know, they'll have that conversation with their workers and be like, hey, you know, I'm going to be out of commission for X amount of months. You guys are going to take over. And then obviously with that, you know, they get more responsibilities, and I would imagine that they would get paid more throughout the time frame because they're ultimately running your business for you. And then if I was in that situation and if I saw that my guys were able to run my route without me and I didn't get any complaints or any reviews or anything, if nothing negative came out of that, I would honestly just leave it like that. Be like, hey, this is y'all's route, whatever, what is it, whatever raise or payment we agreed on stays, it stays like that. You guys got a raise. This is what you guys are going to do. And then I would start focusing on getting more clients and maybe building a different route just for myself or for someone else. But I think down the road, one thing that I am considering is having this just kind of be on autopilot, where I have we meet up in the office, we go over their route, we go over, their expectations or my expectations, and then they go out, they do the job, and I'm stuck either invoicing them or, checking up on their work. But eventually what I want to do is where Wheezy Weeds maybe, again, I like to ramble on and I like to think of all these different scenarios, and none of this might not even get that far, but I'm just kind of thinking out loud, and then some of you guys can relate to what I'm thinking, or you guys could be like, oh, okay, I didn't think about that, or be like, oh, that actually makes sense. But for me, I think I would want this to eventually be autopilot. And I'm not even in the business anymore. I'm more of a administration or CEO, or going on the properties that they service and kind of checking their work and whatnot. And ultimately, I'm going to be making less money at the end of the day because of all my expenses. But I'm literally at that point, you are literally making money for not doing anything or very little work. And then maybe start a different business. There are other businesses that I have been wanting to try out. One in my area I think that would do pretty good is, a party supply business, or, for jumpers, tables, and chairs. I really don't see that many down here. And where you offer delivery and something, maybe get an enclosed trailer with, Wheezy Weeds, party supply or something like that. And, and people that want, that are interested in us, setting up their party supply, we can also offer lawn maintenance for those days. And I think those two would go together. So maybe down the road, right now I'm really just focusing on Wheezy Weeds. And even if I wanted to, I just don't have the time because I am physically and mentally tied into all this. So this is property number 2. This one's a little unique. This one we just do the front, up where y'all can see his house. We pretty much just do his front, is what I'm trying to say. And for this one, it takes us maybe 25 minutes, if that, between the both of us. And this one's $70 each account. And when I first met with him, I was already switching into billing at the beginning of the month. And another thing is, when he called me, he was like, oh, do you have insurance? And I was like, yeah. And pretty much the main reason is because he's on a main road, so he wants to make sure if we get hit, I have insurance, and I try not to sue him. Because I was like, I've been in business for 4 years, and I've only gotten asked that twice, and this was one of them. And pretty much he's like, yeah, I just don't want you to sue me if y'all get hit or injured while on the job. And the second time that I got asked was this year too, a week before I met with him. And it was another client. It was a lady, and pretty much she was saying do you have insurance? And I like to ask because I'm why does it matter to you? I don't know. It could be a red flag. Just the fact that I've never gotten asked that, I was a little worried. I was like, if they're already trying to be extra, then I really don't want to take them on. But they were both very similar. The lady was like, because her yard is on a very steep slope. Normally when we get to the top of her yard, we have to weed eat, because if I try using the standards will, we'll roll back and whatnot, or flip and whatnot. But same thing, she's like, my yard's a little unique and I just don't want you guys to get injured. And, she's like, I just want to hire someone that is insured and whatnot. But anyways, yeah, so I honestly do not think, like what do you do in a situation where you're injured? Like, say you break a leg, or, you end up getting like severe like medical issues where you can't physically come out here and work. What do you do? I mean, I've come out here when I'm sick, I got the flu or something, or stomach ache, whatever, and I just power through. Normally I'll just take a couple Tylenols, then I'll drink a Red Bull and Monster, and really just like give my body that rush of sugar and crap and all that other stuff, and just kind of, I guess it's similar to kind of like painkillers, and then just power through. And then once I get home, I literally just shower and knock out and hope that throughout the night or overnight I feel a little bit better. But when that happens to me, I'm just miserable out here. And it's happened, it hasn't happened with Jacob, just because it's rare for me to get sick. But normally it's when I'm solo, and if I'm doing like 10 yards by myself, I'll only do like 6. And once my body starts to feel it, I'm like, I gotta go home and whatnot. So I mean, I just don't know what I would do. Maybe like if that happens, try to hire someone and hope, hopefully they already know, they're already trained up. They have a lot of experience in that. And even though, like, again, like I'd rather make little to no money and keep my clients, or keep servicing my clients, than like completely lose out, all your accounts. Because, your clients will be like, okay, don't worry, hope you feel better. But they're only going to wait like a week or two. If it goes past like 3 or 4 weeks, I'm assuming like your loyal clients will reach out to like someone like, hey, this is my situation. Are you able to service us just one time until my guy gets better? But eventually, if it's a long term, you're gonna have to be like, okay, like, I don't even know, just put a pause on it, and then hope that when you do feel better, you kind of start from scratch, and it's pretty much like all that time and money wasted, pretty much out the door. For me, luckily, it would be up to Jacob. I'd be like, Jacob, you're gonna take over. I have my son Phoenix. He'll help you out. I'll, depends how bad I am, but I would help, tag along too, because it's just in my nature. And I'm sure a lot of y'all are like me, where like, even if I help just blowing, or, even if I'm mowing, maybe I'm just refueling your equipment for you, or driving you around. Like, I'd rather be out here trying to help than be stuck at the house. But I don't know. It's those situations where, like, if you're very sick, I don't know. I'm sure there's stories out there where people had to like, stop servicing their yard for like a year or two, because they had to go through like a surgery, or they had, or they went through a rough patch and whatnot. So, I mean, there's just a lot of factors, it's just not easy to be doing this. So I do think that's why it's important for you eventually to hire someone, try to find that employee that, that you see that, they care. I wouldn't say as much as you do, because I don't think any employee will, but, that they gave a rat's ass at the end of the day, that they're not really just for the paycheck. Jacob enjoys doing this, and, he has his days like anyone else. Like, he's told me like a few times how he just loves being out here. You're in nature right now. It's beautiful weather. He's making good money. But then, when it starts to get in the, in the 3 digits for the heat index over 100 degrees and whatnot, it's miserable out here. And, you can tell his quality, isn't fully there, during those times. But, we balance each other out, where, ultimately, because it's my business, I care all the time. But it's nice to have that second set of hands. And I think eventually, you're going to go through some hurdle, or some hurdles, or some rough patches in your life or in your business, where you're going to need that support, where you have that employee. And it's better to start thinking about it now than in the future, or when it's happening. But anyways, like, subscribe. I appreciate y'all.